my name is Conway, and along with my teammates Norbert, Harriet and Rob, we are Buterfly Hunters. Today we would like to present to you our augmented reality web app built in Vue, A-Frame and on a Firebase backend, Buterfly Hunt. Buterfly Hunt was really conceived of in response to conditions brought about by the COVID-19 epidemic. We had the sense that people were feeling understimulated and very anxious, so we wanted to create an app that would bring a bit of colour, wonder and fun to people's days. We were also thinking about parents of young children who suddenly had full-time childcare responsibilities. So we wanted to create something that would give children an activity that they couldn't currently do outside, like hunting for bugs. We also wanted to create something that was involving and interesting enough to occupy them and maybe give their parents a little bit of free time. Finally, Buterfly Hunt is really a culmination of ideas that came from every part of our team. One team member was particularly passionate about quarantine quality of life ideas. One was interested in game design. Another was really excited by making engaging apps for children. And one was extremely interested in augmented reality. We got a chance to combine all of these things and make a really cool app. And now I believe Harriet's going to give us a quick demo.
I will now be taking you through a short demonstration of our app, Buterfly Hunt. As you can see, you are able to view how to play the game before creating an account or logging in. It will display a list of instructions and visuals on the page, from creating an account to downloading the markers, placing your markers and hunting for the butterflies. This page is accessible throughout the app in case the player wants to refer back to anything they were unsure about. If you don't already have an account, click Create an Account and it will take you to the sign up page. You will need to type in your email address, username, password and confirm your password. Once all those boxes are filled in, click Sign Up and it should indicate that you have created an account. Now we will go back to the login page and use the email and password chosen when creating an account, and this will take us to the parent profile. On the parent profile, you can see that you can create a new player for your child by clicking on New Player. When clicked, it should show an option to type in a username. As you can see, choose a default avatar from the list, or if you have a custom user image, you can post the URL in the bottom. But for now, I will type in Jess Jelly as the username and choose a default avatar image. Once you have clicked Create Profile, the new player should appear at the top of the page along with the chosen username. When you click on the player, it should navigate you to the child profile. From here, you can either click on Butterfly Collection or Go Hunting. If you click on Butterfly Collection, it will show you a list of butterflies along with their name, type, and how many times you've caught that particular butterfly. The butterflies are displaying black silhouettes for the time being because they haven't been caught yet. If we go back to Jess Jelly's profile and click Go Hunting, your camera should then display your current environment as it is doing here. Luckily for me, I have a marker right next to me that I can scan. Once we point the camera at the marker, the butterfly should appear, and when the target changes to green, you should click on the butterfly and it should display a message that you have caught it. Now, if we go back to Jess Jelly's profile, click on the butterfly collection, and that said butterfly that you caught should be lit up, and it should show the type of butterfly it is, along with its information and how many times you've caught it. I will now pass you on to Norbert.
So I was mainly responsible for the augmented reality side of the project. I used a framework called A-Frame, which is built on Ar.js. Its main function is to render the butterflies in the 3D space when you introduce a marker such as this to your camera. Our game has 5 markers built into it, and each marker gets a butterfly randomly assigned at the start of the game. Positioning and scaling was definitely a challenge in A-Frame. We had to meticulously calculate it of where the butterfly shows up based on this marker. You also see a cursor in the middle of your screen. That's there to help us and to help you catch the butterfly as well. When the butterfly comes in the scope of the cursor, you are able to tap on the screen and catch that butterfly. Behind the scenes though, it will send a post request to our database with that butterfly's info, so we know exactly what to show in your collections page. In other words, we know which butterfly you did catch this time. I also went away and learned about a program called Blender, which is to do with 3D modeling. So each of the butterflies that you see are handcrafted and hand painted by yours truly, and I think they look terrific, but I might be biased here a little.
After having previously spiked numerous technologies, including Angular and Vue, my group and I decided to use Vue as the front-end framework instead of using React, which was familiar to us all, but we wanted to explore new tech and challenge ourselves to learn a new framework in the time frame that we'd been given. While Angular and Vue both had their advantages, I was aware after researching about Vue that it was increasing in popularity and it has an overlap with React and Angular with respect to their functionality like the use of components. I thought the transition to Vue from React would have been a better option, and we were all excited to learn this lightweight, fast-growing framework.
Hello, my name's Rob and I'll be talking about our choice of database, Google's Cloud Firestore. Firestore is a hosted NoSQL database storing information as documents inside collections. As there is no ability to join data together, the way the documents are nested under each other in sub-collections must take into account how the data is going to be used. This is something we had to think through at the start of our project. Firestore promises faster read times at the expense of slower write times and less flexibility when making queries. As our project didn't require any complex queries, we thought it would be a good fit for us. Access to the database is regulated by the rules set inside the Firebase console. When a user logs in, Google places an authentication token into your browser. And one of the challenges we encountered when using Firebase authentication was simply realizing that the requests to the database automatically carry these authentication tokens along with them. I'll now pass you over.
I'm going to discuss the issues my group and I were concerned about whilst completing project phase remotely and the agile-inspired practices we tried to implement to get around these issues I'm now going on to discuss. My group and I were initially anxious about pair programming and how to communicate with one another when someone had bad internet. We did try and use VS Code Live Share, which was very useful when somebody was stuck on an issue and they needed somebody to just jump in their code and try and help them out. We also had 2 stand-ups, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, to make sure that we were up to date with what everyone was doing. And we created a group chat to make sure that when somebody had bad connection with their mic issues, they were able to communicate with us by messaging us. We also used a Trello board on the internet, and that allowed everyone to keep track of where somebody was at in regard to the front end, the back end, and A-frame, and whether we were keeping pace with the workload and the time frame that we had. Overall, I think these agile-inspired practices made sure that we were on track and hopefully helped us to enjoy the process of project phase.
So we did have a few challenges on the way. Very early on we realized that we're not going to be able to make a native application as we originally wanted to. This was due to hardware limitations of running Android Studio efficiently. So although it was a difficult decision to make right at the beginning of project phase, we opted for a web application and the finished product turned out great, so we definitely made the right choice at that point. Another big challenge was to actually make augmented reality happen in a web application. When you look at native applications, they have tons of options to choose from when it comes to augmented reality. They have loads of programs to use, they have up-to-date documentations and tutorials, but when you actually look at a web page and wanting to display augmented reality through a website, it's still very much in its infancy. There's not many use case examples out there, so there's no go-to programs to use. And the framework that we chose, A-Frame, is actually built with virtual reality in mind and in the first place. So all of its documentations and all of the tutorials out there are for VR. We had to really dissect the information that we could find online and piece it back together carefully, so we could give you a good user experience when it comes to augmented reality. We wanted to have the feel and the look of a native app, but brought into life.
This was a very front-end heavy project, and I personally did quite a lot of moving around between Vue.js, Ar.js and A-Frame. We identified pretty early on that one of our obstacles was going to be integrating these new technologies with each other. In particular, Vue.js, as a component-based framework, really struggled with Ar.js, which, as a library, could only be imported into the script tags of a vanilla HTML document. I think this would have caused us integration issues no matter what framework we were using, but if we had been with something like Angular or React, which have much more widespread use in the West, then I think we would have had a better chance of finding someone else on the internet somewhere who had had the same integration issues that we were having. As it was, we were working in very young web AR technologies and a very niche framework, and trying to find anyone who had kind of done this before to share their insight on the internet was all but impossible. So with a lot of these problems, we were alone in the wilderness.
There's a few things I would like to do differently. If I were to start over the project today with what I know now, I would definitely try and make this into a native application. Now, we had some hardware constraints of not being able to run Android Studio, and despite that, we turned out a finished product that kids and parents can enjoy as it is. But I do think it's in the back of my mind to think that had it been a native application from the get-go, it would have been just a little bit more impressive to look at. And another thing that I would really wish we could explore further is these markers. So we went for some very simple markers that are easy to recreate if you trace it over your screen, or you can just print them out. But the initial goal was to create markers that are just very simple geometric shapes, like a circle or a cube or just a line that you could draw in a matter of seconds, and then you could hit the ground running with our application. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that we was able to do in the time that we had for it.
Personally, my favourite things about Buterfly Hunt are the ones that make it accessible. I love that it's a web app that will run on the oldest and crustiest mobile devices, including all of mine. I love that our marker designs are simple enough that we were able to hand draw them traced off our screens and have them still work perfectly. I love that this means it's accessible to people who don't have the newest phones or who don't have access to a printer. And the big item on my wish list that we worked really hard on but just couldn't crack was to do with accessibility and the readability of how text displayed on that moving, dynamic, augmented reality screen. We tried really hard to put static frames behind our text as it displayed so that we could control how much contrast there was between the words and the background, so that people who maybe don't have the best eyesight would be able to kind of access and enjoy the app in the same way as everyone else. Ultimately, this was something that we worked really hard on, but I believe there's something to do with the way that the text frames were displaying in 3D space that we just weren't able to crack in time. and I hope it is something that we're going to keep looking at and fix. Finally, from all of us Buterfly Hunters to you, a massive, massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch our presentation. We were working with an almost entirely new tech stack here, and we're really proud of what we've built. We hope you enjoyed learning about it, and we really hope that you'll go try it out for yourself at https://butterflyhunt.co.uk. Thank you so much.